Today I'll show you how to create elastic stretch transitions like these in Adobe Premiere Pro. Alright, I've got a few clips in a sequence here with just hard cuts between each clip. We're going to create this transition using a single adjustment layer. Go to the project window, click New Item, Adjustment Layer, hit OK, drag that adjustment layer over to a track above your clips, and you want it centered over that cut point with room to work with on either side of the cut. Make sure that layer is selected, move the playhead to the cut point, and hit M on your keyboard to add a marker to the layer itself. This will come in handy later on. We're going to add two effects to this layer. So go to Effects, search for Transform, double-click that to add it to the adjustment layer, then search for Gaussian Blur, and double-click that effect as well. Now we'll head over to the Effect Controls window and we'll work on the Transform effect first. Hold Shift on your keyboard and hit the left arrow twice to move 10 frames to the left of the cut point. Uncheck Uniform Scale, toggle open the scale width, and click the stopwatch to create a keyframe. Hold Shift and hit the right arrow key twice to move forward 10 frames, where the cut point is, and set the width to 200 to add a keyframe there. Move forward 10 more frames and click Reset Parameter to add one final keyframe at the default width of 100. So now our clips scale from 100% to 200% at the cut point and then back down. But the width is scaling from the center outwards, stretching out beyond both the left and right sides of the frame equally. We want to pin this animation to one edge of the frame so it stretches out in one direction only. And this is pretty simple to do. We just have to change the horizontal values for both the anchor point and position. Now the numbers you see in your project might be different than mine. They're based on the resolution of your sequence. Whatever number you see here, just double it. So for me, that's 3840, 1920 times 2. And I'll enter that as the horizontal value, the number on the left, for each of these. And now this animation is anchored to the right side of the frame, stretching out to the left and then back in. If you want this to stretch in the opposite direction, set both these values to 0. And now this is anchored to the left edge and stretches out to the right and back. But if we play that in real time, there's no real elasticity to this. It's a little lifeless. We need to add a little keyframe magic. Select all three keyframes, right-click, and select Ease In. Then right-click again and select Ease Out. You'll want to make this a little bigger for the next step. We're going to drag all the keyframe control handles straight across towards the center. You want to keep these level, and it might help to zoom in for the ones in the middle. And what we want to end up with here is this steep volcano-shaped graph. Now if we play that, our stretch animation accelerates into the cut and then decelerates on the way out. So now it's got a little snap to it, that rubber band effect. So this already looks pretty good, but we can make it even better by adding some motion blur. Now you can add motion blur from within the transform effect itself, but in this particular case, I find it doesn't give the best results. I prefer the Gaussian blur effect for this transition. You get a little more control and a smoother blur. Set the blur dimensions to horizontal, and we're going to add keyframes for blurriness at the same locations as the transform effect. Click the stopwatch beside blurriness to add the first keyframe. Go to the end of the transition and add another, and then back to the middle and enter 400 to add a keyframe there. Now when it comes to the Gaussian blur effect, the higher your resolution, the higher you need to set this number to see the same results. So 400 on a 4K sequence like I'm working with produces about the same amount of blur as 200 would on a 1080p sequence. So you might want to go lower or higher depending on your frame size. Either way, you can play around with this value as much as you want to get a blur that works with your footage. We're going to add the same easing to these keyframes as we did with our transform effect. Select all the keyframes, right-click Ease In, right-click Ease Out, and just like before, drag all the control handles to the middle. And now we have this nice motion blur that helps smooth out the transition from one clip to the next. So that's great for stretching out in one direction and snapping back in from the same side. But what about stretching out in one direction and across? Come on, I'll show you. Let's copy this adjustment layer over to the next cut. This is where that marker we added helps with aligning the center point of the transition. I'll select that adjustment layer, head back over to the Effect Controls window, move the playhead to the middle keyframe, and then go back one frame so we're on the last frame of the first clip. Click the stopwatch beside anchor point and position to set keyframes for both. Move ahead one frame to the cut point, the first frame of the second clip, And remember that number you used to anchor the stretch to the right of the frame, your frame width? Enter that as the horizontal value for both anchor point and position. For me, that's 3840. And now everything leading up to the first pair of keyframes will be anchored to the left edge of the frame, and everything from the next set of keyframes forward anchored to the right. We're flipping the direction of the stretch from one frame to the next, and this is what we get. The first clip stretches out to the right, and the second stretches in from the left. To switch directions, just reverse the order of those keyframes. And now the first clip stretches out to the left, and the second stretches in from the right. And you can play around with the keyframe distances, scale widths, blur amounts to create a whole variety of different stretch transitions. Bring the first or last keyframes, or both, closer to the cut point for more snap on either side of the transition. Move the keyframes further away from the cut point for a more drawn-out stretch on either side. You might want to adjust the control handles a little, just the ones in the center. There's just a lot of ways to have fun with this transition. And once you're done tinkering, you can trim the adjustment layer down to size if you want. Just get rid of anything before the first keyframe and after the last, and you're pretty much good to go. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to like, subscribe, and save your projects often. It's Premiere Pro.